listeners. I'm Hadassah Hadara, conducting this interview on behalf of Regal Multimedia. This evening, I will be interviewing Mrs. Eddie Mae Williams of Executive Support Network, her incredible nonprofit organization that is truly uplifting the community. We are here to discuss the life of Mrs. Williams and the potency with which her organization empowers our community leaders. Well, to begin, would you care to introduce yourself, your organization, and share what it was like growing up in Birmingham, Alabama, in the heart of the civil rights era?
My name again is Eddie Mae Williams. I am the founder and executive director of a nonprofit, Executive Support Network, that was initially a program of another nonprofit I had prior to setting up the Executive Support Network. So the Executive Support Network has been in existence now a little over a year. So it's brand new. In this organization, we provide support and trainings for African American heads of nonprofits to help them to enhance and to strengthen the internal structures of their organization and position them to qualify for funding and resources that they currently don't qualify for. And I want to help them to learn how to operate the nonprofit as a business as opposed to just services. So I'm very passionate about this. I genuinely care about the nonprofits in my community. I want to see them excel, and I don't have a lot of time. I tell people today, my mantra for 2022 is I don't have time to waste time. If they're with me, we can make some things happen. But if they're not, I cannot waste time trying to help them do something they're not ready to do. And there are some nonprofits that's not ready to do what I'm trying to do. And I respect that. You know, we are who we are and where we are, and we're all in different places at different times, and they're not ready for us to join forces and work together. I'm okay with that too. It's their loss and my gain.
Absolutely.
Now to talk a little bit about me, which I'm not very good at. I'm long and hard about this. I was born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama, and I got married at a very, 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 very young age and left Birmingham, Alabama with my husband and moved to Texas, and then from Texas we moved to California. Stayed in Texas a little over a year. Moved to California, and when my children were old enough, actually they were definitely old enough, they were in college. My daughter got married and my son went to college. I decided I wanted to go back to college. And I was married to a man that didn't think I needed to go to college. And I went and enrolled in school with his disapproval. And I had a hunger for knowledge, and I just could not allow myself not to go to college. I just could not allow my husband to hinder me from going to college. And after a while, he got used to it, kind of, sort of. I went to University of Alabama in Birmingham for a couple of years, and we moved back to excuse me, we moved back to California in 1980. But while I was in Birmingham, we moved to Birmingham in 78, and we moved back to California in 1980. So I started in working in the nonprofit arena in 1978 while I was a student at University of Alabama in Birmingham. So that's where the nonprofit challenge began in 78. I worked as a volunteer for a nonprofit that provided housing and services for domestic violence services. And that I just kind of stayed in the field. And when I came back to California, I was going to California State University, Dominguez Hills, and I got involved in all kinds of volunteer projects on campus at Dominguez Hills. And I realized that was my passion, to help. It's always been to help people, but I couldn't identify it as a passion. Today, I realize that was my passion, is to help those who are struggling and who don't know how to speak up for themselves. And I realized that this is where I wanted to be. And so I have remained in the nonprofit arena for over 40 years. And I don't regret a day of what I've been doing in the nonprofit arena. God has allowed me to use the gifts and the talents that He has given me. And my mantra is that you use it or you lose it. And I don't want Him to take the gifts and talents away from me that He gave to me for me to help somebody else with. So I really love what I do. I know when I need to step back and allow people to be who they are. I know when to step back and completely step out and leave people where they are. That's where they choose to be. I don't try and force my ideas on people, and I don't allow people to force their ideas on me. I have 2 children. I have a son and a daughter. My daughter's the oldest. I have 1 granddaughter, and I have 3 great grandsons that I love dearly. Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Josiah. So Isaiah is 10, Jeremiah is 7, Josiah is 4. Wouldn't take anything in the world for them. And so in 98, I decided to set up my own nonprofit. And I started the process, and I got some support from some people that I know that support the work that I'm doing, that I was doing at that time. And when I first started my first nonprofit, it was services for pregnant and parenting women and dads, okay, because they had some dads that was taking care of their kids. In 2009, I dissolved the first nonprofit because things just crashed. Money wasn't so readily available any longer. And my board of directors at that time wasn't stepping up to the plate to help. So I dissolved the nonprofit and I retained the program, the Executive Support Network, and set it up as a fictitious business. And I continued to assist and do what I could to help other nonprofits as they struggle to try and keep their doors open. And in 2020, I decided to set the Executive Support Network up as a nonprofit organization. And here we are today. Made everything legal. Been able to get a couple of small pots of funding. I have a board of directors. I have 15 board members. I have a great board of directors. Writing grants to get more money. Always looking for, a challenge to get money fast. And one of the things that I've learned in the better half of my life working in the nonprofit arena is that we African Americans don't get the opportunity to receive the funding that we do qualify to get, but we won't get it because the people that are in control of funding have already made a decision prior to us applying that we can't do the work. Not the social service part of it, but the business part. And there's a lot of us that can't. There's a lot of us that don't want to do don't want to do the business part. And so I tell them that you're going to have to do both. If you don't, you're not getting any funding. So God blessed me with the opportunity to do the work that I'm doing now, actually, is to help non-African American executive directors to take a different look at how they operate as a nonprofit and know that they are a business and that's how they have to operate. And people that have the money have to see that we're operating as a business and not just doing social service. So I'm going to stop there and see if you have some questions. I've talked a lot.
Well, thank you. That was beautiful. And hearing you, there was a lot that resonated with me personally, just having always been a pretty advanced, astute scholar myself and intellectual, and fortunately being born in my generation at a time when it was more permissible for women to seek education, more progressive, tolerant times, and also your experiences in the community dealing with domestic violence. So understanding, having been through the system, how important organizations like yours truly are, especially for our communities of color. So I really appreciate the work that you're doing for us as a collective. Wow. One of the questions I did have is, with your experience with parents and your passion in empowering parents, and I like that you said mothers and fathers, because a lot of times in today's feminine empowerment age, a lot of times the men can be erased, and a lot of times masculinity is kind of demonized and the father's importance can be pushed by the wayside. So what would you have to say to the parents of this era, this day and age?
Well, for what, back in when I was a young mother, a young wife, men didn't get as involved with their children as they do today. Yeah, I see a lot of men with their kids doing things with them. Back in the day when I was a young woman, it was all on the mothers to take care of the kids, and the daddy only stepped in when there was a need to discipline the kids. Okay, so today I would say to dads out there, those that are doing the right thing, are trying to, that I admire them, and perhaps talk to them about how to be more involved. So for those that are trying to do the right thing, I would tell them that I admire them. I had a situation once at my church. I set up a ministry at my church, and I had a young father to come in that was homeless and trying to find a place to stay with him and I think he had 2 or 3 kids. And he had to go to the church office first and say that he was there to see me, and then they would call me. Or some woman in the church was very disrespectful to him and made him feel really, really insecure. And he didn't get to see me that day, but I had his phone number, so I called him and I asked him what happened, and he told me how this woman treated him. And he said, I thought people in church treat you better than that. And I said, well, all church folks aren't nice folks. There's some church folks that just as bad as street folks out there, okay? So I don't want you to hold it against the church because she spoke to you the way she did. But I want to help you, so I need you to come back in again. And this time when you get on campus, let me know and I'll come out and meet you, and you don't have to deal with her. But she hurt him so bad he cried. So I know he was hurt. And so I had to talk to the pastor and tell him what happened. And that if we're going to become known as a church that treat people with disrespect, that's going to be a problem, and I can't stay here with that. So we got it all straightened out, okay? But I admire dads that actually take time to be with their kids, that want to know how to change a diaper, and be a daddy as best you know how. I admire that. But on the flip side of that, those that are not doing it, and I have an occasion to be around them, you know, I try and encourage them to do things different, to look at how he is setting an example for his children, for his boys and for the girls, you know. So, you know, I guess I want to say that I'm sort of one of those all around old women. Okay, I get in everybody's business at some point, especially young people. You know, and I tell them, you know, I'm not here to judge you or criticize you, but I want to share something with you. And then they listen, and oftentimes they say they really appreciate it. That's
Well, I really appreciate that. And I agree with what you're saying. A lot of times nowadays, the fathers want to be involved so much more. However, society kind of creates this narrative that deems masculinity more and more toxic, is the buzzword nowadays. And their importance is kind of erased. However, the fathers themselves want to be involved a lot more. And you're correct, you know, in the older generations, the fathers kind of only were there to lay down the law, you know, to implement the discipline. And so it was more of that children should be seen and not heard, and, you know, stay in a child's place. The fathers
old
didn't
school
get
stuff.
involved. Yes, again, it's just resonating on a very personal level. But I too, as you know, I wear many hats, you know, so I'm a doula, I'm a life coach, relationship counselor. I make holistic herbal products and skincare. So a lot of my work is about families. You know, that's my overarching long-term vision, you know, helping mothers to heal certain traumas and kind of heal from kind of these toxic lies of feminism, and really seeking to unite families and have not as many single mother homes, have mothers and fathers in the home in harmony, modeling that for children. And as a doula and birth worker and birth educator, you know, advocating strongly for natural births at home where the fathers are involved. And so that's kind of like my mission. And so I really, I'm just so enjoying this so much, but I do know we are pressed for time. I had a few more questions. So I wanted to kind of switch gears a little bit. And would you like to share your story about what happened that day at the laundromat?
I have always been the family rebel, and I continue to be a rebel. A lot of people don't realize that. I worked at a laundromat over the mountain. We called it in Birmingham, and the customers would come and bring their laundry into the laundromat, and we would wash and fold them up and wrap them up and put their name on it and take them to the car to them when they came back to get them. Well, I got a customer's clothing mixed up one day. I don't know how I did it, but I got it mixed up. I gave couch covers to somebody that didn't bring couch covers in. And so the old man, I'll never forget his name was Struthers. He said to me that we found the clothes, but people that had the wrong package brought them back. But who wants somebody else's couch covers, okay? So she brought them back, and, you know, I apologized for the mix-up. And, but prior to her coming back, the owner of the washermat said to me, when Miss So-and-so come back to get her clothes, you tell her you're a damn fool. And I didn't say a word. When she came back, I apologized to her for her mix-up. Took her covers out to her couch. She said, Eddie Mae, I'm okay. You didn't really do anything wrong. Don't worry about it. Da, da, da. And so Anyway, she drove off and I went back into the laundromat. I said, give me my money. I'm quit. He said, you little sassy helper, you don't talk to me like that. You don't quit. I'm fired you. I said, no, I quit. Give me my money. And back at, at that time I was making something like maybe 50 or 75 cents an hour.
Wow.
He gave me my money, and I want to say it was during a holiday season, because I remember we had a cigar box sitting up near the register where people dropped in money for us in the cigar box, okay? And I got my cigar box, and he gave me my money, and I was out of there.
No, that's right.
I wasn't giving him an opportunity to tell anybody else I was a damn fool.
That's right.
Because I didn't consider myself a damn fool.
Mm-hmm.
But my mother and my dad, my sisters would have never said that to this man. Never.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know where I got my rebelness from, but anyway, I wasn't standing for that. So that was the story with the real me starting to come out, okay?
We love that it did. We love that you pioneered, that example for us. And how was that moment a motivation for what you're doing now in the community?
I didn't really think about it. I just knew that he hurt my feelings telling me to tell somebody that I'm a damn fool for getting their clothing mixed up. I didn't think about it. I just knew that when taking her clothes out to her car to her and coming back into the washing mat, this wasn't a job for me. So I was ready to quit. That was it. No thoughts about the consequences, okay? None whatsoever. I was angry. And my feelings were really hurt. Because I was one of his good neighbors, okay? I did my job. I was at work on time. I did things that he didn't ask me to do, in the laundromat, clean, sweep up, mop the floor, go out of the way to do things. And he telling me to tell this lady I'm a damn fool. My mama never told me to tell everybody I'm a damn fool. My daddy never told me to tell anybody that. So what makes this white man think he can tell me that? And I'm gonna go back and say, Mr. So-and-so, Mr. whatever told me to tell you I'm a damn fool. No way. That wasn't happening. So I didn't really give a thought to it. I just knew that I was through with that. And I worked with another black girl there. And she was just blown away that I talked to him the way I did. I said, well, I mean, what other way could I talk? He insulted me. I wasn't going to work with him and he talked to me like that. If he talked to me like that, he'd talk to her like that too. So I really didn't give any thought to the consequences. I'd go and find me another job. That was my thought.
Wow, I really appreciate that story and just that boldness with which you advocated for yourself and humanized yourself. And that's so important for us as a people, to hear these stories. So I think what comes out of that for me is, you grew up in the civil rights era. So for me, when I was younger, I was kind of very militant. I was reading Malcolm X biographies and Assata Shakur and the Black Panthers from literally elementary school, very young. And so I had that passion for self-defense. These were the mottos. This kind of was the vision of the Black Panthers, helping the community, right, implementing the breakfast programs for the children, but also very clear about our right to defend ourselves. And I have to admit, as a child, very young, I was more militant. And so at that time, I really didn't agree kind of with the story we were being told about the Martin Luther King and kind of the nonviolent movement and all of these things. I felt like we should fight back. We should defend ourselves. We should be armed, and not only armed physically, but armed with education, armed with knowledge of self.
Knowledge, yeah.
Yes. So that brings me to, as a figurehead of the California community, what do you remember of the LA riots?
I was right in the thick of that era. I mean, Black Panthers were all around me. I mean, I knew Black Panther people, that was doing things, and uh, I supported what they did. I didn't get involved uh, directly, but in an indirect way, I would. I uh, I thought, I mean, I like the idea that they did things to help us to grow, to be better at what we were doing, to take better care of our children, to make sure our children had a meal before they went to school, to uh, educate us on issues that we were not informed on. Um, so I was in the thick of that era, and I was thinking about it prior to us, getting ready for this meeting, this interview. And I remember how people demonize the Panthers, uh, but they didn't really know the Panthers. They didn't know what they didn't really know what they represented. Uh, Black folks, but I
Mhm.
think that a lot of Black folks operated out of fear,
Yes. Yes, they
and
did.
and that goes the same with NAACP. People didn't want to be affiliated with NAACP because they thought that it represented a hostile environment.
Yeah.
But then how do you know what hostile is if you can't spell it?
Mm.
Okay,
Wow. That
you gotta know
part.
how to spell it. I tell my oldest great grandson, because they have really big vocabularies and they use words and they don't know what it means. I said, so what does that mean? He said, I don't know. I said, didn't I tell you about using words you don't know what it means?
Oh, yeah.
You got to
Wow.
know before you can use it. Okay. So a lot of us, and a lot of it is out of ignorance. I
Yeah.
just have to call it like it is. If you don't know something, you're not trying to learn anything about certain things, then you're ignorant.
Yes, ma'am. Yes. That's what it is.
A lot of it was ignorance, and if there was things that I didn't know, but I found ways to find out about it so that I wouldn't be ignorant. Okay, so I just thought that, and then the other thing that really sort of um, didn't sit well with me is that people were demonizing the Panthers, but didn't
Mhm.
really understand who they were,
Mm.
and the demonizing started at the top. When I said the top, I'm talking about out of Washington D.C. Because we had
Mhm.
this J. Edgar Hoover in office.
Mm. COINTELPRO.
You know what I
Yes.
mean?
Mhm.
And so that
Mhm.
if ever there was a redneck, that was one.
Oh, yes. Yes.
But see, people don't even talk about him today. They don't say anything
Mhm.
about J. Edgar Hoover. So our men have to be mindful of what they do, how they do it, who they do it with, and what they say and who they say it to.
Mhm.
Have
Mhm.
to, I mean, it just, and when you, I believe, because I don't know this, 'cause I'm not rich, but when you come into a lot of money, your life changes.
Yes.
Life change. You don't set out to make a change, but because of where you are and what you're involved with, your life changes.
Yes, it does. Mm.
I'll never forget. I heard a white man during the time that they were having this riot going on in D.C. last year. I heard him say, I heard a white man say that they not helping us, they're not taking care of us, so we're gonna take care of ourselves.
Mm.
So they were talking about the government. And see, they're the one that's angry with the government
Mhm. Mhm.
because they feel they've been shortchanged, okay?
Mhm.
And they've always felt were that they were overlooked so that we can get into certain positions. But these positions we were entitled to. We are citizens of the United States of America.
Yeah.
But they want us to be, from some other country, okay? But
Mhm.
we were born and raised here.
Mhm.
So we have just as much right as they do, but they don't see that, and they won't see that because they're so busy trying to do whatever it is that they can do to have us to become extinct. Okay. This program I got, the African American Leadership and Management. I got some black folks that didn't like that I set it up like that.
Mm.
They are even today trying to get me to change. I said, I'm not doing that. It's African American executive directors. So that means you had to have been born and raised here in the United States. You can't come
Mhm.
from Africa, okay? You can't come from
Mhm.
blah, you can't come from wherever. The United States, we know what real racism is here.
Yes.
To live with it. We still
Mm.
live with it. So when I say African American, they know what I'm talking about. So no, I'm
Yeah,
not changing it. And
that's right.
Miss Williams, why would you do that? I'm from South. I said, because we were born and raised here in America. That's why I want. People they said Asian American, they said Mexican American, they said Filipino American. So why can't we have African American? Why is that issue with that?
Mm. Yeah.
But anyway, I'm about to get upset here.
Oh, yes. I appreciate that passion. And there's this conflation nowadays, within our communities and there's this narrative of like, oh, we're all African, and then we accept Africans and Afro-Caribbeans, and they displace us,
Yeah,
who were
yeah,
born and raised here, whose ancestors built this country, literally. And there's that form of erasure, of
yeah,
our rights. And then the immigrants, that's a whole different conflation because the Africans are coming in, but then they're being categorized as immigrants, and then they have certain permissions and privileges
right,
that
right,
we ourselves, being born and raised here,
right.
are overlooked for, and they're given opportunities. So that's very important. I love that you spoke on that. And what I always admired so much about the Black Panthers is the masculine leadership that was unfortunately reduced to violence,
Yeah,
the,
yeah,
the militant nature and the weaponry
right,
of that form of self-defense. And they never applaud the compassion and empathy of those men to create the breakfast programs for the children, to be very concerned for the rights of our community, protecting our communities. And, as you were saying, the Black Panther Party was demonized
yeah.
as just this violent organization instead of seeing the community, the heart for the community, the empathy of that masculinity. And, that's, again, as a collective, Black men in general nowadays are demonized. The strength
Right.
of a Black man wanting to act on behalf of his community is demonized as violent or too aggressive. So that's definitely a problem, that, organizations like yours and the passion that you have speaks to. I'm loving this energy so much. Like I could talk to you for hours. I have so many more questions. I just to kind of streamline it a little bit. Speaking about leadership, what would be your advice for aspiring leaders of today seeking to improve our communities through nonprofit organizations?
I for the trainees that's coming up, I'm looking at the younger generation because the people in my era, they stuck on stupid. It always works. So I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna keep doing it this way. But things change. Nothing remains the same. So we have to be flexible and change with the time. We have to do that if we want to grow. So uh, my advice to the younger generation would be one, to make sure that you have your structure together prior to, because a lot of people come in wanting to get some money right away. Funders are not going to fund you if your infrastructure is shattered. And I tell people that. So do you have a board of directors? I mean, a board of directors with blood running through their veins. because
Yeah.
people got board of directors on paper, well, they don't have actual bodies, okay? So you got to have a board, and you can start off with 3, but you need to have at least 5. I mean, I'm very upfront and straightforward with them. Do you have an accountant? Do you have your policies and procedures together? Do you have a bookkeeper? I talk about staff development, where they need to make sure that staff is okay, because a lot of people don't think about the value that your staff bring to your organization. So I got to take care of my staff and make sure that things run smooth, because staff can mess your organization up if they're unhappy, okay? So I talk about making sure that you have things in place, and that funders know, and they do, because they've said it to me. We know when people have taken time to plan, and when people put something together in a hurry. And if we feel that you did this in a hurry, you're not getting any of our money. And they have a hard time giving money to small nonprofits anyway. They see them as, they don't see them as growing. But how do you grow if you don't, if funders don't give you money to help you to grow?
Exactly. Yeah.
So how do you apply for a job and you don't get it? So how do you learn if nobody give you a job? You know, you got to start someplace.
Yeah.
So funders are taking a more in-depth look at funding African-American organizations. I'm saying African-American. I don't know about the Latinos. I don't know about the Asian. I know about African-American. Okay, I know how we're treated. I know how we're mistreated. Okay, I don't know how the other folks are treated, because I'm not one of them. I'm only concerned about African-American, and I make that clear. And I'm not prejudiced. But when it comes to other ethnic groups, they are looking out for themselves. And I've had them to tell me, I'm looking out for my people. I said, you know what? I ain't even mad with you. I'm looking out for mine too. And it's okay to say that. Some people don't want to hear that now. Some people, they don't want to hear African Americans say that. It's okay if Asians say it, or Filipinos say it, or Latinos say it, but they don't want to hear African Americans say it. And at my age now, I must say what I got to say. And I'm not going to be rude and disrespectful, but I am going to say what's on my mind. It's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Amen.
Careful how I say it. But I treat everybody with respect.
Yes. Oh. Wow. Well, it's definitely been an honor speaking with you. It's really just, it's such a blessing in this moment to just drink from your wisdom. And it reminds me, just as a child, you know, I didn't really play with the children my age. I would sit at the feet of the elders in my neighborhood, and many of them growing up in the civil rights era, and just hearing their stories. And so hearing you just brings me back to that safe space in my childhood, hearing from those elders that I admired so much and was inspired so much by. So we are at that time point. So Mama Eddie Mae, I would love to thank you for the gift that this moment is, to hear from you as a living icon, in a sense, a living repository of our collective archetypal experience. It's a privilege to speak with someone of your wisdom, your maturity, still with us. You know, so many have transitioned on, and it's definitely a gift to share what you have to say. And again, you know, I could have so many more questions. I could keep talking to you. I would love to do this again if and when you are willing. But I would like to.
We can do another interview, you know, later. We can do that.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. Do you have any final statements before I close?
No, I'm hungry. I gotta go and eat.
Yes, ma'am. All right. Well, thank you again to the gift you are to our collective through your amazing work with Executive Support Network. Although strongly localized in the California community, we know that your organization inspires in a way that reverberates across the nation for all of us. It's been a gift to have the honor of your time this evening. And in closing, again, I'm Hadassah Hadara, interviewing Mrs. Eddie Mae Williams on behalf of Regal Multimedia. And we appreciate you. We appreciate all you've done for our people and for the culture. Thank you.
And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to allow you to interview me. That allowed me the opportunity to share with you,
Yeah.
my experience. So I really appreciate that.
That is
Thanks.
beautiful. Thank you.
Great, sweetie.
You have a blessed night. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.